Hi, my name is Carolina Canizales. I've lived in San Antonio since I was 9 years old. I migrated with my mom and my sister, fleeing domestic violence in our own home. San Antonio has been an amazing place for me where I've grown up, not to just learn English, have a master's degree, but also fight for the rights of immigrant community like myself and my family and my friends. Right now I work, in a nonprofit who fights for justice and the rights of immigrants and the nation. And here locally in my community, I work with a lot of nonprofits and partners and community organizers to also make sure that the immigrant community is protected in San Antonio and Bexar County, and that we have access to resources and services that have been denied for a long time, to this community. I came when I was 9 years old to the US. I came to a very particular area of San Antonio, which is Alamo Heights, which is a predominantly white area. And I remember I suffered bullying for having an accent, for not knowing proper English, and for being poor. I was probably the only kid who rode the Via bus, which, by the way, I love Via and public transport. And that really, shaped me and who I wanted to be, what my voice wanted to be, and how I needed to stand up for who I was and not be ashamed for not having resources or the best accent in the world. I went to a local university. I decided to go to a local university, which was UTSA, my alma mater. And at UTSA, I met other undocumented youth like myself and students. And we got together to be able to fight for access to higher education for people like ourselves. We were fighting so that we would get in-state tuition. We were fighting so that we could also get access to scholarships, even though we didn't have a social security number. And we were fighting to be seen, right? We were students just like any other students at UTSA. We contributed the same things to our campus. And luckily, I remember, we had institutional support. I remember President Ricardo Romo then wrote a letter in support of the DREAM Act. That was 2010, which is one of the pieces of legislation that everybody is familiar with and would get relief for young people for people like myself who came to the country young and grew up in the States. That's when I was introduced to movement, and that's when I was introduced to organizing others to come together in unity and say something, step up for someone, take action for your rights. So that really started what I call my community organizing career. And I've been doing that since I was 19, and I'm now 30, and I'm still doing it in different aspects of the immigrant community and fighting for their rights. When it comes to DACA, Defer Action for Childhood Arrivals, this is something that undocumented youth fought for under the President Obama administration. And the reason why we fought for it is because the administration failed to pass the DREAM Act. And we knew that we could get relief even if it came through executive action. And that's what we did. So we built a national movement with networks like the United We Dream Network, should be familiar to a lot of people in the country, which is the largest undocumented, network of undocumented youth in the country. And we fought for our rights. We fought for a right to stay in the country, for a right to continue to go to college, for a right to continue to have access to benefits like healthcare, and the right to be seen, right? Like we've always been fighting for the right to be seen as equal, as a human being, as people who live here and contribute and love the country, right? Because we've made this country home too. So we won in 2012, and then we thought in 2016 things would be different. Unfortunately, we have President number 45, who's definitely anti-immigrant and has made DACA one of his campaign tools to go against the immigrant people and the immigrant movement. And as you know, DACA is at risk and it's been at risk since he took office. So every year has been a legal battle. Every year has been a political battle about this program. But we as DACA people, as dreamers, or as undocumented youth, because we're all in this together, we know that we must continue to fight, for the right to stay here, for the right to have access to college, to a job, to have a driver's license, right, to be able to live freely. And unfortunately, because it's become too political, and I think the country is very polarized, right? So, but I feel like we have not been defeated yet. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of this. However, of course, the administration is not even following what the Supreme Court is telling them. But I think at the end of the day, you have more than 1.2 million people that benefit from the program or could potentially benefit from the program. You have 11 million families that have DACA within their families or know someone with DACA. And I think people power at the end is stronger, right, than politics or racism or whatever comes at us. And I know that whatever happens in November, we're going to keep fighting for our rights. We're going to keep fighting for programs like DACA. We're going to keep fighting for a relief for everyone, hopefully a path to citizenship for everybody, not just DACA, but people like my mom who's undocumented, people like my family and friends. And I think for this November, if there's an important message I want to give community, is that for those of you that can vote, you should go out and vote, right? There's millions of people like myself that cannot vote, and we wish we could, so that we can make our voices heard in this, within the electoral system. But that's an opportunity that has been denied for us for a long time. So if you can vote and support immigrant rights, please go vote. Vote early if you can, especially with this pandemic. So that would be one of my messages for folks. I know a lot of folks want legal immigration, right? That's always been the argument of people who oppose immigrants or the immigrant rights movement. When I came with my family, we didn't really have a choice to think about how we wanted to escape and what applications we needed to file to escape. We were fleeing violence, like a situation of violence, meaning that if we stay there, our life was in danger. Millions of people face that choice every day. And when you choose to move from your home with your family and leave everything behind, including loved ones, it's because you really don't have a choice to see what application you need to go do, what paperwork is needed. You probably don't even have money to pay the fees for those applications. So when it's about human life, people are gonna make choices to save their lives. And those choices shouldn't be framed within a legal or not legal, sort of world, because it's humanitarian. It's a humanitarian reason. If you want to try to migrate the legal way because of our really flawed immigration laws in this country, the wait time is probably 20 to 25 years to get in line, which is an argument that we hear a lot. People don't have 20 to 25 years to wait, especially when their life is at risk. And people are gonna do whatever to survive. And one of those things is to migrate and look for better opportunities in other places that are not home, right? Unfortunately, because home is not providing opportunity or safety for you, and that's why you move. And I feel like I invite those folks to really listen to the stories of people who have migrated for different reasons, people who have tried to do it the legal way who still can't get here because it's been 20 to 25 years, people who had to flee violence like myself, people who had to flee climate crisis because they lost everything and there was no way for them to continue life, where they were born. And I feel like everyone has also an immigrant story in this country, so I also invite them to reflect about how their family came to this country as well. I'm sure they came through Ellis Island, right? I'm sure they have an immigration story in their family, and I invite them to ask their family members, why was there a choice to move? And I hope that will give them more reflection time and enlighten them in the millions of reasons of why people migrate, which, migration is a human right, and people should have the freedom to move, especially when it's about life, like, the ability to continue life in a safe way. Everybody was expecting that the Supreme Court was going to rule against, DACA and give, the power to the Trump administration and the actions that they did against DACA. However, in a surprising, court ruling, the Supreme Court said that the way in which the Trump administration ended DACA was capricious, meaning there was like evil intent, to end and cause harm to folks. And then the second question was that they did have a right to end it, but that they had to go back with the Department of Homeland Security and find like all of the legal, sort of arguments in order for them to end the program properly or the legal way. So basically it was, you did this wrong thing, Trump administration, but actually here's the legal way in which you can end the program completely. So it was like 50-50, right, on that decision. But with that decision, what was supposed to happen was that the Trump administration, while they figure out how to legally end the program, in the time being, they were supposed to reinstate the program to what it was, which was under the Obama administration, which people will understand it as people were supposed to be able to apply for DACA for the first time, so initial applicants, which was taken away. People were going to be able to continue to renew their DACA permits, and then the other part of the program was advanced parole, or the ability to travel out of the country under educational, professional, or humanitarian circumstances. So the Supreme Court said you must reinstate the program to what it was in its original form. However, the Trump administration has decided to ignore that ruling, and after all of these fights, the final said that the Department of Homeland Security and the Trump administration said is with a memo that just came, I think, last week. So now what DACA is from now until November, until hopefully things change, is that people cannot apply for the first time anymore. They're not going to accept initial applications, even though the Supreme Court said they needed to do that, but they're not going to do it. The fee has gone up, has doubled from $495 to $795. So it's more expensive to apply now. And the renewal period, instead of 2 years, it has decreased to 1 year. So that means people are going to spend almost $1,000 every year to be able to keep this work permit or this DACA status, unfortunately. So it really becomes less accessible to those 800,000, DACA youth that had DACA or have DACA, and it really becomes a fight of every year. So that's the end of it all. That is the final memo that was issued by the Department of Homeland Security. And it really makes things bittersweet, right? Because even though you have a win in the Supreme Court, which is rare, that your case gets heard in the Supreme Court, but we did it, immigrant youth did it, and we won. But then you have an administration who completely ignores the rule of law and is saying, no, you don't get what the Supreme Court says. It's going to be more expensive for you, and you're going to have less time every time you renew. So it just puts people in great anxiety, right? And in a great economic hurdle to be able to access the work permit. $495 was already a lot, especially during the pandemic when people have lost their jobs, to be able to keep that benefit, right? So what did you do, right? You keep fighting. You do fundraisers with your community to be able to apply. And you keep telling people to vote so that we can have